to Better Credit, Better Home. Your source for the latest local and national news that can impact you if you are in the market for real estate. Here are your hosts, the Kingwood mortgage guy, Mike Durr, who uses his 25 years as a mortgage professional to help people improve their credit, and Joe Salas, an accomplished home inspector, real estate agent, and trainer of new agents for Byrd Property International. Together, they will help you understand what you need to know to get the most out of your real estate investment. Let's get started.
Let's get started. Yeah.
So,
thank you guys for being here today. Give us a full broad stream, going to multiple places. I don't know if you guys knew this, but I live stream this to Twitter, to Facebook, and to YouTube. And so you can pick that up anytime you want, or if you just want a copy of the file for yourself and cut you out of all the nonsense that goes on, you can do that also. So anyway, today, what's going on with you, Mr. Joe?
today was a better day, I guess, as far as the volume of work I've been doing. Yesterday I had an all-day meeting from 9:30 to 4:30. Today I've only had one meeting and kind of had a chance to catch a breath and be in the office for a little bit, get organized. I don't know, you can't see my desk from my camera, but I've had paperwork starting to pile up.
Yeah, no, I just got a big
Clean the desk today.
Know the feeling.
Well, I know where all your realtors are. They're at the Tom Ferry show going on downtown. Did you know that?
Couldn't make it today. Yeah, unfortunately I wasn't able to make that one, but yeah, I saw that. That's a good show to be at. I told everybody to share the knowledge.
I'm a fan of his. He's a good guy. Tim, do you know who that is, Tom Ferry?
I don't. I was going to ask you who that is.
So he's like a guru, a coaching guru for realtors.
Okay.
And he's been around a while, and he's had a lot of success. And he's like the cutting edge of what's going on. And there's a couple others. What's the guy named Buffini? Buffini is another one of those guys that realtors really like to watch, and very didactic, I think is the right word. Very disciplined way to approach your market it and do things. Loves video, and I think that some of the stuff that we do here is consistent with what he does.
Oh, nice.
So anyway, I'm a fan of his. I've watched some of his stuff. I am a total newbie on Facebook and Instagram and stuff like that. I guess I just kind of fell in that gap there when that was all coming to be.
Well, Sandy went today, didn't she?
Yeah, she definitely left. And
well, let me know if she has any nuggets of knowledge that she'd like to share.
Well, I will. Matter of fact, I'm thinking that they probably had a pretty good crowd today.
Sure.
Anyway, we're here to talk about first-time home buyers and what's going on. And I don't know if you saw the slides I've got, but this first one just kind of stuck out at me as 67% of Americans believe a housing crash is imminent. And you know that now a disclaimer on this headline came out in August of 2022. So
okay.
imminent might be a little overselling it, but
Yeah.
Already proven wrong.
But there are still, I think the reason that I wanted to bring this up is because there are a lot of people that listen to the headlines, and I'll show you what the headlines look like in a minute, but the headlines that paint a picture of disaster, and it's the worst market in the world. And I think it's everything but that, even though the news that we got with the CPI report today was not good news. And I think it's going to set us back a little bit, but I mean, we still got a lot of time before to beat this inflation thing back, so that we can get rates back in a market or in an area where the market will be better. So let's see what go on. Look here, I've got our guest, Tim King, who I wasn't sure was going to show up, but he showed. Tim, tell the people that are going to watch just a little bit about you.
Yes, hi, I am Tim King. I've been appraising since 1993. Took a few years off, but yeah, I've had my own firm since 2001. Basically residential, from vacant lots all the way to high-rise condos. I mean, everything in between. So predominantly Houston metro area and surrounding counties. But yeah, we're starting to pick up a little bit. Kind of play up what Joe said. It's the upticks happening, so that's good news. I'm seeing a little bit more work coming our way, so the market's hopefully starting to rebound a little bit.
I think it will, but here's the key point is that between the three of us, we actually cover 4 specialties, and that's because Joe does 2 of them. But I'm a mortgage guy. Tim's a real estate appraiser and has been for a long time. We've been friends for a long time. Mm-hmm. And then Joe is a realtor, but on top of that is one of the top inspectors out there in the community. And his dog agrees. So
she's got an itchy trigger finger.
Because this is on the internet and it's live, there'll be questions that some people would want to ask. And that's why I'm thrilled to have both you guys here with me. I feel like that's a great support piece and for what we're trying to do. I mean, really, we want to get the word out. We want to give them what's the truth. I mean, we're not trying to sell you anything. We just want to let you know that we're out here to help. Yep. Any issues with that? I think that's pretty consistent with what our
I love it. Any way I can, let me know.
Sure.
All right. So here's what we're covering today. I've got my humors based on moms, and that should have said dads, and my PowerPoint it did, and then the little hearts there because it's Valentine's Day. The other part is, are we going to have a housing crash? Well, we'll see. I don't know. I mean, I don't know what the future is going to bring, but I'm optimistic. I stay that way. Are rates going down or not? And for the longest time, I've been saying rates are going to go down. Rates are going to go down. And today, I got slapped in the face because they didn't go down today. That's for sure. Our home's already too expensive. Well, that's when I look at the internet to see what it's saying. Will home prices drop in Texas? Joe, you get to answer that one when we get there. Reasons why home prices are high and what makes home prices drop. And what can home buyers do? That's what we're covering today. So if you have any of these questions, you are in the right place. And we want to get started right away. But first, we talk about the humor. And I struggle with humor, as Joe will attest. But I make attempts at it every time. So this is my first
attempt.
Practice
makes perfect, Mike. Practice makes perfect.
Well, yeah, hopefully one day it'll be great. But I saw this and I thought it was pretty funny is that the mom plays with her kids and the way dads play with their kids is a whole different way. And it's a great reason why 2-parent families are pretty awesome. But you check it out that the mom's playing with her baby and what's the dad doing? He's got his blower blowing it in his, I guess, I don't know if that's son or daughter or what it is, but she's full blown. All right, let's see. We got another one of those. All right, mothers, they take their kids out for a carriage ride, I guess. And the dad, well, they just grab them by the ankles. The thing that it said on here was, I was afraid he wasn't getting enough oxygen to his head, so they grab them by the feet.
They are now.
Oh yeah. And then here, mother alone with her baby, and then here's father alone with his baby, and I don't know what he's doing. The Fritz von Erich head claw on there. But I thought that was pretty funny too. And then playing with mom, and they're playing with toys and what are those? The building blocks, and dad's tossing the kid around. And that's always fun. I guarantee I did that. I'm sure you guys did that too. This is how the father sees it on the left side. The child sees it, and the mother sees it like, whoa.
That's hilarious. That's so true.
Hey, Joe, did you hear that? An affirmation that it was funny. All right. Okay. So 67% of Americans believe we will have a housing crash. And the sheet that I'm looking off was printed right off of the internet. Here it is right here. And it says housing market predictions for 2023. This was 5 days ago. In a housing market crash, you would typically see a 20 to 30% drop in home prices and a decline in home sales for far more than what's going on right now. The next headline says, if you've been waiting for prices to drop to buy a house, 2023 could be your year. However, the fall in housing prices doesn't bode well quickly, is what it should have said. Number 3, Texas real estate, will it crash in 2023? This was, doesn't say when this was done. Housing market, experts believe the real estate market will slow down, but it will not crash anytime soon due to the minimum supply. That's the key thing is, well, we'll get to, I don't want to get ahead of myself. The last one is how to prepare for a potential market crash. It's possible the housing market will crash this year, but Forbes reports that, and if you go on to read that, it says that it hadn't started yet. So, but these headlines look like the market's getting ready to crash. And of course, these are pretty recent headlines as opposed to that 67% one. So the question is that we have, will home prices drop in Texas? Well, some of the experts believe that the prices are going to normalize. They're going to go back to what they were. They're going to be a modest appreciation on a consistent basis. And I'm perfectly fine with that. Some markets in Texas are at a much higher risk. And the one that they brought out in this article was Austin. They say that Austin is about 60% chance that they're going to have some kind of bubble. Now, does that mean it's going to happen? I mean, think about it. If the people, a lot of people, and I'm not saying this from my own experience, but just in general, people from California love Texas. They're moving to Texas like crazy. They like it because A, it's warmer and the cost of living is substantially less. Now, the closest thing that looks like California in Texas is what?
Austin.
Thank you. Yeah, it's Austin. Yeah. It's a city that has more of the, I guess, the political sense. Am I wrong, Joe? I mean, talk to me. Is there another place you think that looks more like California? Not it looks like, but I mean.
That's what I was like, looks like. Let's see. Nothing really. I mean, I'm good at California places. But as far as tendencies, I guess culturally, I would say Austin's pretty close. But other metropolitan areas are close as well. I think Dallas has a certain subset, and Houston as well too. But
they're definitely landing in Austin. I mean, that's
a lot of them are, and it's mostly because of what their employers are doing. They're relocating to the Hill Country and or over here in Houston or in the Dallas metropolitan area as well. So that's where a lot of their employment is moving to. So they're kind of forced to move to these areas as well.
Right. So the next thing I have on there is what caused the rise in home prices, and there's some obvious ones, but you guys help me out. What were the things that caused Texas values to jump 20% year over year, 2 years in a row?
Supply and demand.
That's what I was going to say. Yeah, for sure.
Yeah. I mean, well, one, I think Texas is a very attractive place for people to move to. There are people that are abandoning places that are colder. I mean, we're definitely warmer down here, and our economy is robust, and the weather is a heck of a lot better, even though from time to time we'll have a cold snap, but I mean, it's nothing like they have up in the northern parts. So all of those things are important. One of the things that I looked at is that Texas added jobs at a 2.5% annual rate, and the national average is 1.4%. So there are a lot of reasons that people are moving to Texas, and that's those are things that are going to help maintain the appreciation that we are consistently getting, even though some people are saying it's going to stop. The reasons that the demand is diminished is specifically related to the cost, not only of housing, but the cost of getting in housing. And I thought that this was kind of a very interesting graph right here, where when rates get above 7%, that triggers weak buyer demand. And boy, I think you guys would be saying amen to that. Between 6.5 and 7, limited buyer demand. They're still out there. They're just not as many.
Sure.
When we get below 6.5%, between 6.5 and 6, good buyer demand. And if it sneaks and gets back into the 5s, like it has been briefly, there's been a hint of 5%, then it's going to be much better, and it might fire up. And that's what I've been saying all this time is and I do believe that the rates are going to go there. When it gets there, it's going to go back to the trauma that we had last year, in the spring and late summer or early summer of fighting over houses. I don't know. There's more inventory out there right now, but I also like this. As rates go down, buyers demand goes up, and I just basically just re-saying what I just said. But this graph here this is a November 1st graph starting on this left side, and to the right is February the 1st. So over the course of 2 months, it wasn't a direct line. They kind of dipped and then came back down. I expect something like that to happen again. They're going to go up a little bit and then they're going to come back down again. That's my prediction. And whether it's right or not, I don't know. We'll see.
Fingers crossed.
Yeah. So,
sure.
So what makes home prices drop? Well, when demand decreases dramatically, and higher rates have been or are the major driver of decreased demand right now. I think that that reduces the affordability, and they limit the buyer's purchasing power, and this reduces the purchase affordability. And I can't tell you how many people I've talked to over the course of the last 2 weeks that want to buy a house that's 3x and they're going to qualify for 2x. It's one of those deals where it's not that easy after you've come through a time when the interest rates were in 3 and 4%.
Yep.
One thing I noticed here, or I put this up here, Houston rents up 6% over what they were last year. So it's kind of painting an image of it. It's a tricky deal because the best way to stave off inflation, your housing expense, which is one of the major expenses, is to buy. To rent, you know that you're going to be spending that money, and it's not that much less than if you buy, and that money's going right down the tube. I mean, you're throwing it right out the trash, or down the commode, if you will. I'll say that that may be an X word, commode. But so you're stuck, and the biggest challenge. Well, I try not to get ahead of myself. But these are additional reasons for prices being high in Texas. Home builders haven't kept up with demand. I mean, there's a shortage or scarcity of construction workers out there that they just don't have enough people to go out there. And particularly after what happened at the end of the year, as rates got up real high, builders have backed off. Cost of land in Texas has risen dramatically.
Yeah.
And I saw this quote: land increased by 122% since 2000. And then government regulation is a factor because of zoning. So there's a lot of things that are working against building houses like we would, but it's probably for our good, right? It's good things, but not the construction deals. I mean, obviously we want people out there building houses that you can move into, but there are a lot of many factors that are going into this housing, whatever it is. It's kind of a unique time period, I think, where there are a lot of people that want to buy, but rates have kind of kept them down. And then there's just a ton of other ingredients. So I've been rambling on. Yeah, I'll open up for any comments from you guys.
No, I agree with the rates. I think that to me seems like the biggest reason why we're seeing such a slowdown. I mean, because there is still, if you look into what's being listed and active just through our local area, say in Kingwood, there's not a lot. It's kind of picked up a little bit, but it's just, supply and demand is still somewhat of an issue. But I think really that the predominant reason is the higher interest rates. Nobody afford their mortgages, right?
Oh, so I'm the blame. Okay.
Yeah. Us appraisers just, you know what I'm saying? Can't blame this one on us. Like everything else. No.
Yeah.
I think what we've seen, Mike, is that the market correction, quote unquote, is winding down, at least in my opinion. I think the expectation that the sellers had the last couple of years where they can inflate their pricing. We've seen that in the last several months. You can see that today when you log into MLS, houses sitting on the market for 60, 90, 100 plus days. So I think I read an article. It was Zillow had come out with some sort of discussion, or their thought was that the correction period is kind of dwindling down a little bit.
I hope you're right.
Yeah.
So one of the things I did was, or this article that I read had Texas versus the rest of the country or the rest of the United States. And I like my image there. That's the way Texas looks to us. I mean, I don't know what these other little people are here on there. Texas is everything. But versus the rest of the country, this is one of the things that happened. The pandemic induced work from home migration. There were a ton of people that got the opportunity to work from home. Then they got home and they found that this was not an adequate place to work. And they thought, well, gosh, if I'm going to be able to work from home, I need to upgrade my house or upgrade so that I can work at home. Mm-hmm. And I can tell you for sure, we did a lot of deals like that. There were a lot of people that took advantage of that. And why wouldn't you when our interest rates are 3% and 4%?
Oh, yeah. And they're cashing out on their equity over in California, New York, Arizona, getting that equity and then either using it to buy a house, which there was a lot of cash buyers, or using it, the interest rates as almost, I wouldn't say free money, but well, the cost of borrowing money was
well, and the equity thing. I'm glad you brought that up because the equity is still there right now. I mean, Tim go out and appraise a house. You look at, I mean, there might be a little difference in what it might have been maybe 3 or 4 months ago, but there's not much, I don't think. And I think that's
it hasn't dropped that much. Maybe it's stabilized a little bit value-wise, but equity's still there as of right now, I would think.
Yeah.
Well, and that's the thing. There's two things that you do with the equity. You draw it out, keep that house, use that equity for something that you need. It could be pay off student loans or pay off debt or buy another property or even fix up your property. I mean, there's tons of things you can do with that. The other part of it is when you sell, the equity that you get out of that sale can go into a much nicer house, or you can put it in. I mean, you can just do anything you want. I had a guy call me today and he goes, when I sell my house, what am I limited to what I can do with that money? And I went, well, I'm not sure I understand. That's your house. It's your money. You can do with it whatever you want to. And he went, oh, well, it's like that was, and that's a good question because there are other people that have that same question, and it's just like, oh, I didn't know that. So there are many people yearning for warm weather and a lower cost of living. So it's not only we're getting people from California, we're getting people from all over the United States.
True.
Joe was kind enough to give me a lead that there's a couple moving to Texas from Germany. And so it's not only people in the United States that are moving to Texas, it's people from all over the world are moving to Texas. Large companies are relocating to Texas. That's what we talked about. Tesla is one of them. And gosh, there's a couple others that are just coming here because in scope or in the scale of things, Texas land, even though we might think it's expensive, is a bargain to some people that are wanting to live in an area that's got a good climate. And then, of course, one thing we do have a lot of is we have a ton of land. Houston's probably geographically one of the largest cities in the United States. I don't know about anything in the world, but I know it's a huge city. So that's a big deal. All right. So what can homebuyers do? What can homebuyers do? Joe, what can homebuyers do in this situation right now? What are their options?
Get pre-qualified. Talk to Mike. Get your number where you're comfortable and that you can afford monthly as far as a payment. Come talk to me. We'll find you a house. If there's no house available, we'll keep looking until there is one.
That's it.
It's that simple.
Yeah. I mean, I thought a lot of people, they don't know what they're looking for until they know about a price range. And then a lot of times you have to get out there and see some houses before you can actually discern what you want and what you like. Now, if you've had a house, you have a much better idea of what you're looking for. You want things that you don't have at the existing house that you have. But when you're a first-time home buyer, it's a different deal because you're kind of a blank slate. And so you get Joe to put you on one of the searches. So anytime homes pop up, and then maybe you go look at a couple of them, and then you can make what I think is a discerning decision about is this a place that you're going to be able to stay for 6 to 10 years. And the bottom one, the one that's so hard, is to be patient. Okay, so if you're telling, or if you want to find out how much your home is worth, do you have any equity, like we were talking about a minute ago, let Joe Salas help you discover how much your home is worth. Then you can decide on what your options are. Joe will do an intensive comparative market analysis for you at zero charge. However, if after you do that, you want to get more locked down, Tim King can go out there for $1,000 or whatever. No, I don't know what.
Yeah. Not quite that much.
Gold coins.
Yeah.
Yes.
Gold
coins.
And honestly, if you're thinking about that, it's one thing. In those ranges, the appraisers teach the realtors how to price homes, and there may not be a lot of difference, but the banks rely on people like Tim to give them the amount that's verifiable, and that's what Tim does when he's.
Sure. Right, and I was going to say, Tim, there's other, or at least ask, and there's other services that you could offer a homeowner, and not just the sale of their home or purchasing a home, right? Like if they wanted to contest the square footage that the appraisal district has, stuff like that. Those are services that you would be able to offer.
Yes, absolutely. Yeah, we've talked about this before. I mean, I think it's important just to have all your ducks in a row to make sure you can capitalize on your home and as far as, especially for the sellers and sometimes even for the buyers, if the home doesn't look as big as they're advertising, you might want to have somebody go out and measure it. This guy can do it.
That's a big one, because that square footage thing is challenged a lot. And,
Sure.
and I hate to say this, Tim, but you get a couple different appraisers out there, some that maybe are lazy and they don't do a real.
That's unfortunate. I think like in any industry, you're going to have some slackers, some people who just don't want to do the job correctly. What we try to go by is ANSI guidelines, ANSI, and that is what I think everybody in the real estate industry is supposed to. Like, for example, garage space is not living area. Certain open area looking down on the first floor is not considered living area. Things like that. And sometimes if the home's angled or it's a more challenging measure, then I think some appraisers may just guesstimate, I guess you can say, and that's wrong. We don't do that here at EST Appraisal Group. That's for sure.
Gotcha. Good.
And we are state certified. So being that, because a lot of times you'll see per the seller, the square footage is that, and the seller may take, old garage space and say, what, it's air conditioned, so living area, or they may, add some other, detached property and say, we have this in the backyard, so that's part of the living area too, which, by ANSI guidelines, it's definitely contributory value and it could be used as that, but it's not necessarily part of the main living quarters. So.
Gotcha. Well, I can see that being a value. I mean, I can't tell you how many times when Joe said that, it triggered a bunch of memories of people arguing about what the space was and why it didn't appraise, because the appraiser used a smaller square footage than what they thought it was. So yeah, that's interesting. And of course, they usually it's either they used Harris County appraisal value, square footage, or previous appraisal.
Or just whatever the county district, the appraisal district says of whichever county, and they're oftentimes wrong. A lot of times they'll just guesstimate or take some old blueprints and just roll with that for the next 30 years. And there may have been additions, there may have been subtractions, whatever, and that's why you need somebody to actually get the measuring done correctly. And it's very important. I've seen it a lot. We had talked before in a previous program of yours, Mike, that some real estate realtors, they used certain numbers, and I come in there and it's like 300 square feet larger, and it's like, whoa, they could have sold this for a lot more than they did, and the appraised value is well over obviously the purchase price or the value of what the asking price was. So
cool.
Just put your ducks in the row, get it right.
All right, this last slide, I'm sorry to end on a bad note, but here it is. Today's mortgage rates, when I checked this, was about noon, and the 30-year fix, which was, I think, the best it's been this last 2 or 3 weeks, was 5.75. Today, 6.375. 15-year, 5.875, and this is consistent with that half-point difference between these normally. FHA was at 6% today.
What do you think caused it, Mike?
Well, the CPI report came out today, and the indication on the CPI report was consistent with their expectations, but it showed a half-point increase in inflation based on the consumer price index. And the Fed, based on the jobs report that happened last week on Friday, between those two things, the bond traders got very nervous, and they're kind of covering their backside. I'm hoping that there's some news that'll come out maybe in the next 3 to 5 days where they will reverse it. But boy, I tell you, this was painful. I woke up this morning, and first thing I did is turn on TV to see if that report came out. And when I heard it, I just went, oh, man. Anyway, but it's, I think it's temporary, and I'm still convinced that rates are going to get better. It's just that they're not going to get better as quickly as I would like them to. So that's it. So just a quick note, if you are watching this and you wanted to subscribe, there's a subscribe button on YouTube for sure. And if you have any comments or you have any questions for these guys, I'd love for you to put them on Facebook and ask us these questions. And other than that, just stay in touch with us. If we can help you, just call us. Pick up the phone. You've got our phone numbers. They're scrolling across the bottom. We'd love to hear from you, and we just want to help. All right. So, guys, until next week, unless you got any comments before we leave.
Nope. Have a good week. I appreciate it.
Be safe. Enjoy the weather.
All right, guys. Appreciate you. I'll talk to you soon.
Take care.
Bye.